This year's recipient is an individual who also embodies that same spirit and love of Indianapolis. For a special conversation with our recipient, I'd like to welcome Visit Indy's Chris Gall to the stage.
Thank you.
And thank you to Chris, who, as long as I have known him, has made the Madam Walker Legacy Center a spotlight, a highlight of Indianapolis, and has made sure that other people from around the world know who we are. And ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this year's award is someone who needs no introduction. Someone I'm proud to call my homeboy, David Letterman.
How are you? Thank you so very much. Thank you, I appreciate that. Is this all right? Thank you very much. Thank you. Great pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me. Hey, I'll be right back. Sit down, Chris.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have. Dave?
Hi, Chris. How are you?
How you doing?
Well, that Leonard sure can talk, can he?
That's right. Dave, you have no idea how much that means to me. Dave, welcome home.
Thank you very much. Great pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for being
Thank you for being here. We appreciate you taking the time to help us celebrate the city's bicentennial, the opening of this theater. Now, you arrived a bit earlier today. You made a few pit stops. You were roaming around the city. You brought a bunch of stuff on the table here. What pit stops did you make? Where'd you go in Indy?
Before we get to that, Chris, and maybe we should get to this first, because is there anything more provocative than a 4-pound can of mustard? Being here makes me wonder two things. First of all, who canceled? And secondly...
It was Jay Leno, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
He's not even from Indiana.
I'm just kidding, he didn't.
Oh, you're just kidding, are you? Being able to come back to Indianapolis, being able to come to this theater is part of my life and will always be part of my life. And the fact that this theater is now vital and viable and has withstood the test of time in a modern era when typically historic buildings are torn down. I can remember seeing this building. My father we would take drives around the city on Sunday afternoon as recreation. And he would point out places. And every time we came down here, he would say, and that's the Madam Walker Theater. And he would then tell us what he knew about the history, the legacy, and what it meant, Madam Walker's life and to the city. And the fact that this building is still here after all those years is a lovely, lovely gift. So to be part of this is tremendous.
Well said. What's in the box here? So you made a pit stop and you went to...
Who wants a donut?
Oh, boy. Yeah, donuts. Oh, whoa. Dave,
show that Leonard a thing or two. I don't know.
Oh, thanks.
We got another big one. Oh! Sorry, sir. Oh, is that your toupee? Forgive me. Give one to my sister. Are you ready? Can you handle this? Atta girl. One more. Here you go, Mr. McGowan. Be careful. Yeah, oh!
Where are the donuts from, Dave?
I went over to a place, I guess there's two locations. My preferred location is on 16th Street, Long's Bakery.
Yeah, that's a great spot.
Do me a favor, just pass this around, all right? Thank you very much. That's from Shapiro's Deli.
Ah. Now, you mentioned your dad and reminiscing every time you drove by this building, and as you sit here and look at this historic place.
Well, I'll tell you, I've led a very lucky life. Being from Indianapolis has always been great, always something to be proud of. And the fact that I'm in here now is nothing I ever thought would be possible. And to learn of the heritage of Madam Walker and to be on stage here, as I said before, it's really, really quite meaningful.
What inspires you about the legacy and life of Madam Walker?
Well, what doesn't inspire you? Her parents, first of all, and I may have some of these facts mixed up, so forgive me. Parents were slaves.
Correct. Yeah.
I believe they died when she was 7. She was married when she was 14. How many of you were married at 14?
That's right.
Then her husband passed away at 20, and she's pretty much on her own. And to show you the great resilience of the human spirit, what she was able to achieve against impossible odds, and the remnants of that are still here today, again, this is remarkable.
Let's talk a little bit about Broad Ripple. Now, Broad Ripple, you may find this a surprise, cultural enclave. It's a place where residents and visitors like to congregate. Do you know that there's actually a separate neighborhood now called Sobro?
Well, that's a mistake.
So my question for you
There's
is...
a place in New York called Dumbo. That's a mistake. Don't give your area of town a cute nickname. You live where you live and be proud of it and forget the nickname.
I think we're shedding Sobro. What was it like, take us back, what was it like to grow up in Broad Ripple?
Broad Ripple was great, and the house in which I grew up is still there and looks pretty much the same. It was a 2-bedroom house. My parents purchased it right after the Second World War. And you could get on your bike in the morning and be gone till dark and come back and have dinner, come back and have lunch. Nobody worried about anybody. I walked to the public school down the street, P.S. Madam Eliza, not Madam, but Eliza A. Baker, PS 55.
Yep.
And then I would walk to Broad Ripple High School, and it was idyllic. And I think, to my experience, is still pretty much that way today.
It is.
Yeah, now it also used to be a place that had a bar in Broad Ripple called the Patio. And the nice...
Anyone remember the Patio?
Yeah. No, see, if you were really there, you wouldn't have any memory of it. If you made buddies with the owner, a guy named Gordon Etchison, he would lock the place up at 2, and you could drink till breakfast. So that's... And now...
and that was growing up.
That was growing up, that's right. And now, and I don't know how to express this, but the fact that Broad Ripple High School, and I don't keep... Go Rockets! I don't keep up with this the way I should, but I'm told now that Broad Ripple High School is a Costco, so I don't know. Very disappointing.
Let me ask you, as we sit here in the state capitol, 200 years of history, and you reflect back, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen here in Indianapolis?
Well, first of all, I think it was a mistake to move the Capitol from Corydon. I don't know. It's fantastic. Every time
Judy O'Bannon is here, former First Lady. She does not like that.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Whenever I come back, when I left Indianapolis in '75, I knew the city, east, west, north, south. It was part of me. It's part of your DNA, part of your internal guidance system. You could go anywhere. And now, whenever I come back, which is 2 or 3 times a year, invariably I get lost. The city, in many ways, looks like a different city each time I come back here. But the places that I remember, I'm drawn to easily and readily and like a magnet, and I find that gratifying. I also find that when cities of this size and this location perhaps have not succeeded, well, you talk about cities up along the Ohio or up along the Lake Erie, up like Cleveland, for example, have struggled mightily, whereas this city has done nothing but, to my eye, in a very positive way, blossom. So that's also very gratifying.
This stage, 93-year-old stage, this historic facility, it's welcomed a lot of celebrities from Duke Ellington, Wes Montgomery, Smokey Robinson, Gladys Knight, Patti LaBelle. You look at your show on Netflix, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. It has taken off like Takuma Sato on lap 1 of the Indy 500.
You've been working on that, haven't you? That didn't just come right off the...
You got me. I didn't... That's the only joke I got, okay?
Whoa! Leonard?
Now, Leonard... In all sincerity, a really eclectic cast of characters you've been able to interview on your show. Reminisce a bit about the show, some of the interesting people you've had on. What's that like producing a show like on Netflix?
Well, I will say some things that the Netflix people have been very nice to me. Really, really very, very nice to me. And so I'm so pleased to be, in a small way, representative of that, and was thrilled to know that the Madam Walker story has already been produced and will be seen on Netflix. But the people that I talk to, and it's very similar to this, are so, it's delightful because they're so much smarter than I am. And all my life, if I had one regret, it was I would like to be 10 to 15% smarter. Well, that's not going to happen.
Well, you started off pretty strong. You went with former President Barack Obama. My question to you is, you went into Kanye West's home. You were into his closet. You took off your shoes, put on his shoes and his clothes. What was it like to be inside Kanye West's home?
Well, he has a beautiful home.
Beautiful, very plain.
Yes, it's I don't know what they call it, that type of interior decor, but it was beautiful, minimalist. And I was so impressed with that kid because he defied all of my preconceptions about what he might be. And whatever else one might think of him and his career and things he has said, things he has done, he has a great heart. He really has a great heart. And I loved my time with him, even though part of it was highly contentious.
Right.
But I just, if he said, please come back and have dinner, and not a chance that that'll happen, but if he said that, I would do it. Yeah, I just had great affection for the guy. He's tremendous, and I wish I had known more about him earlier.
So your Rolodex, incredible.
Rolodex?
Yeah,
Seriously?
Rolodex.
Says here it's 2020.
You pick up the phone. You pick up the phone, you call Ellen. Talk us through how you book an episode here. You've had, in 33 years, you've had so many people on The Late Show.
Right.
You call Ellen, you say, Ellen, I want you to come on the show. She says what? Okay, this day, this time, you come. How do you prepare to interview? And by the way, Ellen in particular, really moving
Yes.
episode. But tell us maybe how that inner workings of booking Ellen, let's say.
Well, that part that you just described is pretty much how it happens. I don't make the calls. Other people make the calls because people tend not to take my calls. But I will say, again, with Ellen, I knew of her. I knew of her career. I knew of her success. But again, as a person, I was wildly ignorant. So smart. Such a good human being. And the trauma that she endured as a child at the hands of her mother, stunning and awful. And I had been on her show, and her mother was in the audience. And I'm unaware of what happened in that family. So I went up to the audience and said, "Oh, hello." And she reminded me a little of my mother because she had beautiful snow white hair and a lovely smile. And, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you," and this and that. And then 2 days later, Ellen is telling me this horrific story that would split any family apart. It would decimate any family. It would decompose. And yet she and her mother have found a way to heal that. And I'm telling you, you witness things. It's two dynamics here. Which is harder to believe? The horror that humans do to one another, or the horror that humans can overcome. And the fact that she and her mother were able to put that back together, I found, it's the kind of thing you can get a little weepy about.
Yeah.
So I have nothing but great admiration for those two being able to do that.
If you haven't seen that episode, it's a powerful one. Very powerful.
It's been out for a year, you haven't seen it, good Christ.
Oh. Now, there's one person who's not here today. He's retired. He loves Indianapolis. He was trying to get here. He couldn't make it. He was adamant that he send in a video, like a last-minute Hail Mary. We get it last night in the email, and
I know who this is.
Let's see. Let's show.
You made a football allusion.
Well, let's see. Let's roll the video. Can we show it?
Hi, Peyton Manning here. Dave, congratulations on winning the Bill McGowan Leadership Award. I wanted to remind you that this is an award that I collected last year ahead of you. And I also find it interesting that it's well known that Bill McGowan never liked facial hair, and in many cases, he didn't like people with facial hair. So I'm just saying, I'm a little bit surprised, Dave, that you actually won this award. But Dave, I love your new show. I hope you're tuning into my show. I don't really need the ratings. But in all sincerity, congratulations, Dave. You remain a strong Indianapolis ambassador, even in your retirement. I know the city loves having you as a hometown hero. I appreciate all that you've done for me, the support you've given me, and I always enjoy being on your show, and I appreciate you coming to my retirement ceremony several years ago. So congratulations. It's a great award. Bill McGowan's the best. Indianapolis, happy 200th birthday, and here's to 200 more years of success.
Wow.
Wow.
How about that?
Now,
Very nice. Very
aside
nice.
from the Broncos logo in the back, but you and I both have facial hair, and now we learned that Bill doesn't care for facial hair.
What I like is the two parts: that doesn't care for facial hair, doesn't care for people with facial hair.
Now,
So he just,
and we wonder why Andrew Luck is retired, you know?
oh,
so-
that was right
No,
off
that's
the top.
right. Okay.
That's, yeah, all right.
All right.
Not bad.
Okay. Peyton referred to this when the statue was retired outside Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yes.
You were one of just a handful of people who spoke. On your last Late Show, Peyton was one of just a handful to speak
Peyton,
on your stage. So
Peyton,
how did you guys meet? What's that friendship like?
Well, he would be a guest on our show. I don't know how many times after both Super Bowls and in between and after, and he was always very gracious. And as you can see there, as a young man or as an old man in my case, that's the kind of guy I don't know, you wish you were. You know, you talk about leadership. There's a man who every day of his adult life was a leader, not only on the playing field, but a leader in life. And he's such a sweet fellow, and also really very, very funny. And he was quite generous with his time. And I'm so happy that he has settled now into his retirement.
He's witty. IndyCar, team owner. You grew up in and around the iconic Indy 500 and track. Tell us and share with us your first race memory and then your most memorable Indy 500.
Okay, and before I get into that, I will tell you that Saturday and Sunday, our BMW GTLM car won for 2 years in a row the 24 Hours of Daytona.
That's right.
Thank you. I did most of my driving at night.
Yeah.
My first memory, my Uncle Earl, a dear man, would take me to the Speedway when I was a child, a kid. And we would go, in those days, on Sunday of the first weekend of qualifying, because on Sunday it was cheaper to get in than on Saturday. And I think my ticket was 75 cents, and maybe his was $1 for an adult. So the two of us would go out there, and my first memory of it, because it was Sunday, there was not much of a crowd. The
Sure.
big crowd would always come Saturday. And just the raucous sound of those 4-cylinder engines booming off the aluminum structure of the grandstands was, it gets into you. You don't forget it, and that's why you keep coming back. And my greatest highlight was we won the race in 2004. So that would
Yes,
have
you
to
did.
be, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, on actual race day, do you, as team owner, are you in the pits on one of those platforms with like the headphones? Are you up in the pagoda? Are you eating the fried chicken? Like what do you do on race day as a team owner? Where are you?
I'm eating fried chicken.
That's right.
I show up around 6 in the morning when the track opens, and I just keep eating fried chicken all day. It's so, the people that I have met and the people I'm associated with, Bobby Rahal and Graham Rahal and the rest of the team, these are, again, Peyton Manning class folks. Smart, nice, generous, and good to be around. So another blessing in my life is that affiliation, that association. And I'll tell you, it's the worst possible way to spend a day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on race day. It's the worst unless you win the race.
Yeah.
And then it's the best day of your
Yeah.
life.
Your son, Harry, he's 16 now. Does he share the same love of cars and racing? Does he have a license, and did you teach him how to drive?
My son Harry, and thank you for asking. You have 2 kids,
Two
right?
boys, yes,
Two
thank
boys,
you.
13 and
11.
13 and 11. So you're getting right into that area where you said you're getting a little resistance from the kid.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, just get used to that.
That's right.
My son is 16 years old, and I taught him how to drive a stick shift when he was 10.
Yeah.
And yes, it was all done illegally. And he loves it now, and he has his learner's permit so he can drive legally, and we're looking forward to him getting his driver's license. And he's really very good at it. And I know that teaching a kid to drive a stick shift is not the greatest accomplishment in the world, but it occurred to me at some point, you know, the concern about kids and texting. If you're driving a stick shift, you're not texting.
That's right.
Parent of the year?
That's right. That's a good point. Today's award is the Bill McGowan Leadership Award. How do you define leadership?
Boy, I tell you, this is, I'm so honored meeting Mr. McGowan and knowing about him and knowing what has come since and what continues, because a lot of things stop and start and never heard from again. This has a life of its own. The city owes a great deal to this man, and the program and the Leadership Award, you know, God bless you for everything you've done, and thank you very much for letting me come here today. I've been thinking about this leadership because I'm not sure that in my life I routinely manifest leadership. And I think perhaps on those occasions that I have, it was by accident. But I know it when I see it. And it's behavior and it's strength of courage. And it's as simple as this. You're in a crowded elevator and you get stuck between floors. There's going to be one person in there who's going to take over and solve the problem. Sadly, the other end of this discussion, I think we are in a time when lack of leadership is more obvious. And that's all I have to say on that point.
There you go. I like it. Question, Hoosier hospitality. It's ingrained in our DNA. We are hospitable by nature as residents of this great city. How do you define, how would you characterize Hoosier hospitality?
Well, for the most part, it's the way people are supposed to be. It's a manifestation of the golden rule. Treat people the way you would like to be treated. And I didn't realize this until I left Indiana and found that typically people not necessarily that way. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't occur in other states, but I got used to a level of behavior here in Indiana that I try to carry with me throughout my life. And having spent 30 years in New York City, you can't take that for granted. Now, I want to tell this story so badly. So my good friends, and they're here tonight, and I don't know where they are, but they're here tonight. And it's J.D. Baker, it's also Jerry Norris, and it's Steve Brown, and our good friend Doug Templeton, who is not here tonight. These are my oldest friends,
Yeah.
and my sister Janice is also here. Jan, nice to see you. So we started a thing where once a year we would have an outing, you know, old guys trying to have fun. So we would, one year we went down on the Ohio River to a town called Magnet. Where are my Magnet people? It's about 200 people.
Wow.
It's right on the Ohio River.
I wonder how their tourism is doing.
It seemed to be thriving, honestly. And there was a little restaurant, a little bar and grill right there on the banks of the river, and you could see the barge traffic up and down the Ohio. And it was so beautiful, and the rolling countryside, and when we would drive around, my mother used to say, looking at something like this, ain't God good to Indiana? And we used to laugh at her. But later, like so many things your parents tell you, they turn out to be true. And this was certainly true of this setting. And the barges would often sound their horns going up the river or going down the river. And we didn't know why exactly. It was the scene of a Civil War boat accident that was carrying Union soldiers home from the battlefield, and there was a storm, and it blew the boat over to one of the shore, I think the Kentucky side, and there was a fire, and 12 of these young men coming home from battle lost their lives, sadly. And there's a memorial there, which is touching and moving and something I had no knowledge of. So we were trying to figure out why they were sounding their horns. So I go into the bar and grill, and I open the door, and there's a large man, a big guy, a large, big guy. And I open the door to let the big guy come out, and I'm getting ready to go in, and he says, "Oh my God." And he didn't really talk that way, but I'm trying to help with the... "Oh my God," he said, "I've been changing the channel on you for 20 years. And that, my friends, is Hoosier hospitality.
All right, let's do a little rapid fire here. You mind?
Not at all.
Okay. Late night craving, Shapiro's, St. Elmo's.
Well, at my age, I have very few late-night cravings. I would have to say when I was a kid, and I love them both, by the way, Shapiro's and St. Elmo's. But when I was a kid, we would go out and end our evenings at White Castle.
Okay, there you go. So have a few judges recently.
Is that?
Sorry.
Attaboy.
We'll talk about that later.
Bang, zoom.
Strike that from the record.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll head into your bedroom, bedside table. Vonnegut, John Green.
This is interesting, interesting to me. My son's middle school English teacher is married to the grandson of Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh.
Yep, and Vonnegut's Hardware used to be at like 52nd and College, right in there, right next to what was the Uptown Theater. So based on these connections, I would have to go with Kurt Vonnegut.
All right. Most inconsiderate nickname this city has been given, Naptown or Indiana No Place?
I think my favorite, and by the way, I think of this as a reference of pride, is Naptown. I like Naptown.
It's not because we're sleepy.
No.
It has its roots in jazz and history.
Well, see,
and
I
culture.
didn't know that. So even better. I just thought it's a term of endearment, and I look at it that way. But tell me more about the significance of jazz to Naptown.
Yeah, actually, this facility in Indiana Avenue, when the jazz performers would come, even sometimes before Chicago, they would refer to Naptown in a cool, hip way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been debating the resurgence of Naptown, not in a
love it.
sleepy way,
No,
but
I
in a
love it.
meaningful, authentic way,
Yeah.
because of this theater and this avenue.
Yes, this is like a hipster term. Good, let's go with
Bingo.
it.
Let me ask you, we all loved your mother, and she had a cookbook. It's on many of our shelves. Your favorite recipe from your mom's cookbook, German-style potato salad or ham loaf?
Well, I think after the trichinosis outbreak, the ham loaf, I think that went away. But boy, the German potato salad, oh my goodness, it was delightful. Yes, and I can remember my grandmother was a great cook, and my mother was a great cook, and her forte was pie. And as I grew to know this about pie, anybody can put the goo in the pie. It's the crust.
It's a crust.
That's where the magic is. And my sister, as well, is a great cook. So God bless Mom for that.
As we wrap up here, by the way, you look real comfy on this stage. Just want to point that out.
Were you hoping for otherwise?
Well, no. And again, I want to take back that judge comment from earlier.
Ah, it's too late, my friend.
Let me. What
was the judge showed up with that?
I forgot. What? We'll talk afterwards.
Was he naked?
I don't think so. What else is on your mind? What? As we wrap up here in this historic place, what else is on your mind, David Letterman?
Well, I'm concerned, your kids, my son, anybody who has kids, I'm concerned about going forward understanding that everyone is a carbon-based life form. Everyone breathes the same oxygen. I'm not sure what condition the oxygen is in these days, but if you're drawing breath on this planet now or at any time in the future, we're the same. And you can't forget that. And to overlook that is perhaps the greatest mistake of humanity. The second greatest mistake would be showing up at White Castle naked if you're a judge.
That's right. behalf of Visit Indy, our great mayor, the Madam Walker Legacy Center, Alilia, and our partners at IUPUI, thank you for loving Indianapolis, and thank you for joining us today. David, it's a point of pride for you to come home and to help us celebrate, so thank you. And before you go,
The pleasure is all mine, by the way.
before you
Thank
go, I believe the brothers Footman have one more thing they wanted to say before you leave.
It's stuck in my belt. I didn't put it in.
All right.
Oh,
That's for you.
oh my God, look at this. Thank you very much.
Bring it up, bring it up.
Just a little more time, David, is all we could ever ask. Just a little more time, David, is all we could ever ask. Hand claps, everybody. Just a little more, David. Letterman is all we could ever ask. Just a little more time, David, is all we could ever ask. I just need a little bit more time. More time. More time. More time. Every second, every minute, every hour of the day, 7 days a week, 24/7, we need you.
Yeah.
David.
Yeah. God bless you. Thank you very much. Pleasure meeting you. Good luck to you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye. Thank you. Very nice. Thank you, everybody.